Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You get more information and listen to previous shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce author, editor, and publisher Rodney Richards, who also happens to be a longtime friend. Thanks for being my guest today, Rodney.
Lane, I can't tell you what an honor it is to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, my pleasure. Anyway, I should mention that Rodney Richards was born in our nation's capital. He's lived in both coasts and has traveled to countries in Europe and the Middle East. He started as a stock clerk at a high school with the state of New Jersey, working on IBM Computer Room. Since those days, he has been promoted with a professional career in management for all New Jersey IT, computer maintenance, and software contracts, as well as all electricity and natural gas contracts for hundreds of state agencies. During the time, he enjoyed and performed technical and business writing. Upon retirement, Rodney has turned to prose, essay writing, blogging, and poetry, and started an editing publishing company to help writers. He has authored 8 books since 2013, mostly nonfiction and poetry. And Rodney, that's what I want to concentrate on today, if we can, your writing
Yeah,
background. And specifically, what I ask is, you mentioned you grew up in the nation's capital. Did you always know as a kid you wanted to be a writer?
no, but what's the deal, Blaine? Every one of us, if we're lucky, we go to school. Kindergarten, they tell you how to get along with people and respect the teacher. First grade, second grade, third grade, you start to write. So everybody starts out as a writer. And the thing is, we go through elementary and high school, learning how to write, learning how to read, learning facts, figures, whatever. So it's just a natural thing, and it was just natural with me.
So when did you decide, I guess, upon your retirement, that's when you decided to do it kind of on a full-time basis?
Well, on my website, rodneyrichards.info, um, I tell a story how I wasn't going to be a writer. I wasn't planning to write books and things like that. But, after 2 months of retirement, when I was age 59, and just lounging around in the den watching TV with my wife turned to me and said, you know, you're doing nothing. Why don't you do something? Why don't you write your memoir or something? Took me 2 years, but that's what I did.
Because I remember I read the memoir was the first thing I read, what you wrote, your whole life story, which is quite a story.
No,
Some,
it's not my whole life story. A
well,
memoir is only a portion
point
of
well
your
taken.
life, and that was only 17 years. Um, from 1979 to about 1996.
Right. Well, that's how I think I got to. Well, I known you outside of that, but you're right. That was those particular years. Will there be a memoir part two?
Oh, who knows? I have so many books in the hopper, like the one I told you, Drive, America's Unauthorized Driver's Manual. I have another one based on Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life, where the angel Clarence comes down and sits and tells a writer how to write. I have a bunch of them. And the thing is with me, because because I was a computer operator back in 1960 when it was called data processing, and I'm running these big IBM computer mainframes, bigger than refrigerators, and they only had this tiny bit of memory in them, not not like a cell phone does today. And you had to rush, 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 rush. You're just rushing. And if you didn't do that, things stopped, and you did not want things to stop. And so that's just my whole life. And that's how writing, um, doing things, not that I'm not an active guy, like a bicyclist or something, but it just turned to writing. And I had an ability because I had to learn writing in my career. I had to learn business writing. I had to learn technical writing for data processing. I had to learn energy writing because I was writing requests for proposals for the state worth millions of dollars. In fact, when I retired, my contracts that I managed for the whole state were worth $160 million a year.
So talk about the process then, Rodney. So you retired eventually. Your wife says, get the hell off the couch and start writing or start doing something. So that's when you started with the memoir. That was the first thing you started writing?
That's the first thing, yes.
Okay. And if
And
you,
that's interesting because, as I call it my roller coaster memoir because I'm a bipolar person. And I found out in 1979 when I, boom, exploded like a star and out of my mind, um, screaming to the world. Only I was naked at the time and I was going to swim the Atlantic Ocean. But the cops found me and put me in the back seat, took me to jail. And after that, I went to a clinic and I got my head straight with some medicine. And it's been off and on roller coasters for all my life.
but talk about the process then, the roller coaster process that gets you writing. Like, are you a kind of guy that gets up every morning at 7 o'clock in the morning and writes for five
Now,
hours straight?
nope. I
What,
get up at 2 o'clock every morning
what-
and I write for 7, 8 hours straight.
Do you now, are you prompted to do something or you just do it off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy. There's so much knowledge, so much information bouncing around in the world, so many beautiful things to observe with your eyes, listen to with your ears, like the birds in the morning, or look at the sun in the sky in the morning when it's full. I mean, what is it there to write about? And that's how I look at it. It's just an amazing influx. And the hard part for me is not getting distracted and to actually sit there and concentrate and get the pages done.
So when you're writing the pages, so what's impressed me about you in terms of the kinds of books you've written, though they're on different topics. And so we'll talk
Yeah.
in a second about your current, the current latest book, the poetry book. But are you like, so tomorrow morning, will you sit down and say you want to write 8 hours, or at 2 a.m. in the morning, will you decide you want to write for 8 hours on poetry, or do you just devote specifically to that?
Um, it's a mixed bag. I mean, I always check, like I say, my information sources on Gmail and messages and things like that. You have to spend time doing that. If people want to communicate with you, it's only fair to communicate back. It's only fair to keep up with what's going on in the world and not live like uh, a polar bear at the North Pole. Because there's serious things and there's happy things and there's joyful things going on that all are a part of what's going on. And so, like I said, because I was a computer operator bouncing around, I just bounce around. Whatever hits me, I might write a couple pages here I might write a poem. Takes me about 20 minutes to write a poem. And then I might come back the next day and it might take me half an hour to really edit it and refine it. And maybe I have 500 poems in my computer, maybe 500. No,
A-
but that's over many years.
After you've written a poem or something else, do you ever come back and revisit it, change it, want to
Oh,
change
all
it?
the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any writer, professional, amateur, any kind of writer that doesn't look at their published work and say, oh man, I should have used this other word. Or, oh my God, look, there's a typo. Oh crap. You know, I mean, that happens to all of us. Even after we spend, I'll be honest with you. Before I publish a book, and I published 8, I must go through that book at least 50 times, word by word, looking for typos, looking for the right word, rephrasing, formatting, you name it. And you know, that book gets published and still there's a typo in it. Still there's something I would have changed. But I love it. I just love it.
Let's take a look, for example, at your latest book, which I have a copy here. I'll hold it up in a second. Um, Now, was this your first book of poetry, or had you written other poetry books before?
No, I've been published in two anthologies that my company edited and published with 10 other poets. Um, One was called The Circle of Seven, with seven of us, and the other was I forget the title, but those were my first forays into published poetry, my own published poems. And then I decided to do this one solely of my poems.
We'll talk about this one in a second, but even the idea of then you started your own publishing company or publishing house.
I did that, actually, I did that after when I was working on my memoir, I said, well, this is good. I've got a book. Now, what am I going to do it? How will I publish it? How would I publish it? Now, back in 2012, there was such a thing called what was it called? Create Space by
Right.
Amazon. And you know what? It was so surprising. They allowed you to publish and print a book for nothing. It cost absolutely nothing. And today, they're called KDP Publishing, but it still costs absolutely nothing to publish your book. But I had to learn all that about publishing, what the requirements were, how to format, how to meet their policies. And so I learned that. And in learning that, I said, you know what? I'll just form my own company, my own publishing company. So I did. And it's called Ablia, which stands for A Blessed Life in America.
So how do you learn how to do that?
Well, actually, that was in 2012. In 2009, when I retired, um, I started a company, a consulting business for energy, because up until that time in the state, I was an energy guy too, energy and IT. And I knew all the agency heads, and department heads, and all this around New Jersey. I had all their numbers from a directory, all that. So I thought, well, I'll sell my services. Maybe they'll want a consultant. You know, they know me. I got absolutely zero business after 3 years. 3 years trying, zero business. It was not good times. It was bad economic times. That was part of it. The other thing was, any person who's going to buy something, are they going to buy something from a newbie, a person without maybe experts with them, or with a well-known company name? We tend to want to buy things from something we know is solid. And so I had a couple things going against me, and maybe my personality wasn't fit for it. So I turned to writing instead.
And one of the things that always impressed me, Rodney, about the fact when you turn to writing, is that you not only write for yourself and to publish and put stuff out there, but you've also helped over the years quite a few other writers. And talk a little
I
bit about
have,
that because one of the things when I first read about it, just really impressed me about you was the fact that you were regular for a long time. You were running regular writers groups, right, at a Hamilton
yes.
Township. What was that all about?
Uh, the name changed quite a bit, but the 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 name now is Creative Hamilton Creative Writers and Poets, actually, and it's open to the public. Anybody can stop in. It's on the library calendar and schedule. And 1 o'clock every Monday afternoon, we meet in the teen room, and we share a piece. We share a piece, something we've written. Could be a poem, could be part of a story. Uh, last time I was there, this excellent science sci-fi writer was there, Andy Cosmos, um, with an excellent story in science fiction and some way off worlds. So I got to hear nonfiction, fiction, novels, um, romance, mystery, thrillers. I got to hear all that. Not only that, I got to critique it. Oh, well, you might this might sound better, that might sound better. Maybe you don't want this. And so over those years, um, and that was I probably did that for about 5,000 pieces. I'd say 5,000 because it was there every week for 12 years.
Now, were you doing that also for your own pieces?
Um, well, I'm an editor. Through that process, I decided, yeah, to start my business and start editing others' work. So I've edited maybe 30 books for clients. 15 of them I've published on Amazon and other platforms for them. Um, and uh, And that's a very thrilling experience to help them with their covers, to help them with their words for the front and back cover, the titles, the chapter titles, to help edit the actual story. I mean, I find that so exciting and invigorating. It's just like if I were writing my own piece.
Well, it's good to know because I didn't realize that. So if somebody comes to you, a writer, you'll help them, I guess, through the whole soup to nuts process that
Yes,
they do the writing, but then you'll help them take it from there.
yes, I
Okay.
help them. Yep.
And like you said,
And quite frankly, any author today who is considering publishing a good book, a decent book, not a crap book, because there's a million crap books out
right.
there. A good book, one that has legs, would hire a professional editor if they have any sense, if they have any common sense.
Well, again, what you're doing for folks is kind of what you went through all those years ago, that if they don't want to have to find out how to do all these different steps, it's much easier to do one-stop shopping, I guess, with Rodney Richards than do it themselves.
Absolutely. And there's thousands of people like me ready and willing and able to help others write their stories. And that's my basic philosophy, Blaine. My basic philosophy is that everybody has a life worth knowing about, and everybody should write their story.
Okay. And so if they don't know how to do it, I guess that's the purpose of joining a writers group where you'll help them uh, just get started on the process. Rodney, we talked a little bit just before about this one book, your latest book, Free Spirited Poems. I have to ask you, can you read that or is it in reverse type when I hold it up?
No, it looks good.
Oh,
It
okay.
looks fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, if I can put you on the spot a little bit, Rodney, because I've read some of these over the years, could you maybe just share a couple of them with us, if you would, and talk about them? And before you do, by the way, I have to ask you a question I've always wanted to know about a poet. Um, when you have a title for a poem, does that come before the poem or after the poem is written?
That's always a crapshoot, Blaine. Sometimes Sometimes it hits me the first, and maybe it's the first line, and it becomes a title. Or sometimes the second line is what hits me, and I make a title to lead into it. A lot of my poems, the title leads right into the next line, like as if you're reading one line into the next as a sentence. Um, I like doing that. I like that style. Um,
So
I'm
I love
trying
some of the
to
titles. I'll let you choose it. Go ahead.
I'm trying to find a poem that your audience may like. In fact, let me find one on writing since we're talking
Okay.
about writing. I wrote this book with 9 categories. For example, one category is playful poems. One category is apolitical poems. One category is what the future holds. And I wrote one category on writing. And maybe I'd like to share something from that, if that's all right.
Go for it. Okay, and as Rodney's looking for, I'll just mention that you're listening to the Blaine's World webcast. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and speaking with a longtime friend of mine, actually, Rodney Richards, author, editor, publisher. He's written 8 books, and we're talking about his latest, or one of his latest books, Free Spirited Poems. I've tasked Rodney with the job of finding a couple of poems to read to us. I'm all yours.
Okay, this one is titled Selfish Love from the writing section of my book. Hello, Pilot. Hello, Bic. Hello, Sharpie. Each one a rabbit hat trick in Bashow's poem bag. Once just blue or black. Surprise! New colors now range yellow, blue, red, orange-like. Highlights in my hair when 4 years old and tow-headed. I rely on your company, cannot compose without you, dare not put you down or anyone else I hold in my hand.
Question. Just listen to, I'm enjoying listening to you read the poem. Um, have you done poetry readings also?
Not that many. Every time I read it, it's a little different. I like to be surprised by the poem, and I like my poems to contain a little surprise.
So that particular poem on writing, you came up with these different topic areas. How did you come up with the topic areas? You had like
Oh,
nine.
Blaine, come on. Now, how does, I mean, okay, the only way I can explain it is, have you ever seen the Wheel of Human Emotions?
Okay, go.
There's a pictograph. It's like a wheel on a wagon, and there's slots. And each slot is a human emotion, like love, anxiety, hate, disgust, wonderment, whatever. And this wheel that at least I found on the internet somewhere has 99 emotions. Now, there's many more than that. We know that. But anyway, it's like that, Blaine. What when when something strikes me or strikes you, it, you don't you don't question what it is. When a bird sings, you say, "Oh, is that a robin or a sparrow?" You know, it's you enjoy the singing, and that's what it's like for me.
Well,
I just enjoy whatever.
in this book, though, like you mentioned, you had 9 different categories, right, of
Yes.
poems. Did you, as you were writing this, did you say to yourself, well, you had only a few in this one category, you had to add some more to that one category? Is that how it worked?
No, I didn't have a set number. Again, it's based, I guess it's just based on, I'm 74 years old, so it's based on life experience, my experience with other writers and other books, and reading other books and helping other writers write books. Um, I mean, in fact, I have a client now I'm helping editing and publishing her book. Um, it's 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 just a matter of taste. It really comes down to taste. The style, I hope, is my own. I think every writer wants to have a style and voice of his or her own. Um, but it's just a matter of taste.
In your writing, Rodney, have you ever had writer's block or been blocked on what to write
I
next?
have not, thank God, I have not, never. I look at a blank page and a smile crosses my face. What it's like a painter looking at a blank canvas. It's like Picasso looking at a blank canvas. You know, you wonder what goes through his mind to create Starry Night, if it was Van Gogh, but he did. And You know how he does it, we don't know, but it just comes out. And we all have that ability.
Let me ask you, put you on the spot again. That was one poem. Take another category, Rodney, if you would, and choose another poem to share with us.
Okay, I could tell you a kind of cute one. It's a little longer if you have the
Okay,
time.
go for it. We'll conclude on this one. That's great.
I kind of like this one.
Okay.
It's called America's Couple. Not John and Jackie, since Dallas, nor Don and Melania. Music's king and queen, Beyonce and Jay-Z either, nor J-Lo and Ben, Hollywood's ex-power pair. Kathy Lee and Regis split Manhattan long ago. Kelly's Michael and Ryan live history. None top wheels continuous 40th run. Since 75, it's nation's favorite TV pastime. Genius Merv conceived it and reached for the stars. Picked Miss White to turn his alphabet squares. Vanna Wardrobe Mania fast captured fashion designers' 8,000 delights, while Pat returned from hiatus for peeks at nighttime jabs, patter jokes, and syndication. Began on primetime on NBC's Peacock, V&P, not just VIPs, but certified U.S. icons. 9 million guessers tune in on ECM and P Times. Formal, copied down in 20 countries. Format, copied down in 20 countries. I'm almost done. Hold my breath for witty replacements. Maybe Dana Carvey and Miss Haddish get a nod, or Ken, or Mayim jump Jeopardy gangplanks, or Shock of Shocks. Producers try new faces. You and I might then have a shot to earn 18 mil per annum in salary, contracts, and perks. But alas, Ryan, the perennial go anywhere host, does a bang up job now, like idols adore. Vanna's tour, of course, still turns audience heads.
It's kind of a cool history lesson there as well. I'm hearing all these names of people I grew up with or spent time with. Rodney Richards, in terms of after this last book was finished, what do you see happening next in the future? Do you see any other books on the horizon or any other projects on the horizon?
Um, honestly, honestly, it depends. Like I say, I get up and write. That's my private time. My wife is safely asleep in her room. Um, and so I write what moves me. You know what I'm saying? I don't spend time, I try not to spend time on garbage. I try to spend time on something worthwhile. And so if it inspires me, that's what I spend time on. And like I said before, it doesn't take much to inspire me. So that's why a blank page, I'm not afraid of a blank page. But I have I have at least uh I don't know. Another book I'm writing is 50 States of Being about America in the future. Um, I You asked at the beginning. I am working on a senru. Do you know what senru
No,
is?
help me.
Senru is a type of Japanese poetry, almost sentence-like in a way. And I'm converting my memoir that was published into an well, in 2021, my revised memoir, I'm converting it into senryu verses, almost like haiku verses. Just for the fun of it, just for the challenge of it. I love haiku, uh, whether it's 17 or 19 or whatever syllables it is. It doesn't quite matter how many it is. And it's just a matter of having fun.
And Rodney, if folks want to get in touch with you to either find out some of the books you've done or the poetry or to work with you, best bet is to have to track you down.
Well, you can always buy my book on Amazon.
Okay. And that
Just
is
search Rodney Richards
for
poetry.
free-spirited poems. Got you.
But anyway, my email is 1950ablia at gmail.com.
Okay, I'll have you repeat that once again.
1950 ablia at gmail.com.
Okay, and they could also find you, I guess, on Facebook, or do you have a website?
Facebook, I have a website, rodneyrichards.info.
Okay. I'd like to thank you for, I guess, on this edition, Rodney, of the Blaine World webcast. Also, I'd like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. It was so good
Uh,
to see you not too long ago at my 75th birthday. Hopefully, I'll catch up with you before another 75 years, my friend.
we will. We're in touch almost every week.
Okay, I do appreciate it. You be well, my
Thank you,
friend.
Blaine.